On the day of my engagement to John, the heir of the Wilson family, a woman claiming to be the chosen heroine appeared. She grabbed his hand in front of everyone and called him husband, declaring I was merely a supporting character destined to become cannon fodder for their love story. The next instant, John pressed a gleaming black pistol against her forehead, his smile glacial. "I fought hard to win this one," he drawled. "Wanna test how fast bullets fly through delusional skulls?" Everyone knew John's infamous temper. Before I came along, he'd amused himself by tormenting people, dunking them in pools until they recited classics, forcing acrophobics to bungee jump from skyscrapers, assigning ghost Fira's night shifts at crematoriums. Even when victims begged mercy on bloody knees, he'd watch with detached curiosity until they cracked. This much I'd known from the novel before transmigrating here. Now standing outside the basement door, I heard familiar whimpers punctuated by John's low chuckle. Another educational session. I entered without knocking. The young enforcer dropped his whip guiltily. He started screaming before I even. "Ivy! Please!" The man bound on the floor wept. "Make him stop. I swear I'll never gamble again." I turned to John. For 3 heartbeats. He maintained eye contact with calculated indifference before sighing. "Scram." As the man crawled away, John guided me from the blood-scented chamber. Brows furrowed. "You shouldn't be down here. The dampness." I couldn't sleep. My slippers whispered against stone steps. "Your bed was cold." He fell half-step behind, maintaining his self-imposed position to keep me perpetually in his sightline. "Nervous about tomorrow?" In the moonlit garden, he covered my eyes. "Present for my bride." Guided by his warmth, I inhaled roses before he released me. Crimson blossoms stretched endlessly, each petal glowing under strategic lighting. Fresh scratches marked his knuckles. Planted them myself. His throat bobbed. "Do you?" My smile bloomed before I could answer. Childhood memories surfaced, me trailing the Wilson heir despite his sneers. Writing daily letters about sparrow nests and math medals while he threatened anyone calling us childhood sweethearts. Disgusting. Teenaged John had spat when I gifted him roses. Throw these in the incinerator where they belong. Now the man who'd once torched floral shops across the city stood knee-deep in blossoms, anxiously scanning my face. I twined our fingers, letting thorns bite his scarred palm. "They're perfect." Then, John would toss a stack of letters into my backpack and snap. "I don't care about your diary." He was the first person I ever gave flowers to, but it landed him in the hospital. Turns out he had a pollen allergy. Guilt-ridden, I rushed to visit him. The boy hid under his hospital blankets with an 4 still in his hand, pointing at the door. "Get out! Stay away from me." Everyone said I should be grateful we were childhood friends, or else he'd have knocked my teeth out long ago. I ran from the hospital crying, but the tears magically stopped the moment I slid into the car. Smiling to myself, I thought, perfect. Exactly as planned. When we were 10, rebellious John refused to celebrate his birthday at home despite his family's arrangements. I dressed up specially to greet him at the Wilson mansion, but he avoided me so thoroughly he didn't even come home. They say birthday gifts lose their magic after midnight. So I braved the pouring rain alone, clutching his present. In front of everyone, he declared he hated it and threw it in the trash. A real 6-year-old might have cried. But not me. I'd been reincarnated into this body as a baby and already understood John's psyche. Instead of crying when publicly rejected, I gazed at him with puppy dog eyes. "John, will you walk me home? I'm scared of the dark." Of course he refused. What he didn't know was that this petty rejection led to me being kidnapped for 5 years. When they finally found me, my body was riddled with chronic illness, pale as a ghost, barely able to stand. The sight broke hearts. The day my family came, John arrived too. Different now. His eyes held regret and tenderness where there'd once been disdain. As he helped me into the car, the neighborhood's most feared bad boy whispered in my ear, "Ivy, I'll protect you from now on. Never lose you again." I kept my head bowed, secretly smirking. True to his word, John became two people, harsh and intimidating to others, yet achingly gentle with me. When I tried dumping bitter medicine behind adults' backs, he caught me red-handed. His glare lasted exactly 1 second before softening. "You need this to get better. Be good," he coaxed. I'd turn away stubbornly. Without complaint, he'd circle around to face me again. Teenage John had been wildfire, untamed and answerable to no one. But after my return, everyone noticed the change. Instead of sleeping through class or playing basketball, he'd video call me at the hospital or take meticulous notes for tutoring me later. Weekends once spent roaming streets now found him refusing invitations with excuses like, "Can't. Gotta make sure Ivy takes her meds. Not going. She gets scared seeing blood on me. Ivy says no fighting." I listened to her. His friends rolled their eyes. "Ivy this. Ivy that. The same girl you used to avoid like plague, now you're her damn simp." How the tables have turned. Johnny boy. On graduation day after college entrance exams, a classmate confessed to me. John arrived just in time to hear it. "Not happening." His voice carried that dangerous edge as he approached. "She's mine. Get lost." The boy fled. When I tried escaping too, John caged me against the wall. His aristocratic features held that beautifully disheveled, world-weary look, the kind that made girls' hearts race even as he pushed them away. "Ivy, we're adults now. Can I finally confess my feelings to you?" Even when declaring his love, John still sought my approval. Yet I refused, giving the classic line, "I'm sorry. I've always seen you as family." The Wilson heir who'd been drowning in love letters since middle school had never faced rejection before. My words made him laugh bitterly, though they didn't deter him. "No problem. At 18, you've got 82 years left if we count to a century. I'll propose every year." 82 years? I can wait. Soon all of New York knew the untamable John had met his match. Year after year, he staged elaborate declarations that became citywide spectacles. Even our friends turned traitors, urging me to surrender. I'd just smile. There was no hurry, the right moment hadn't come. When I finally said yes, John trembled like a teenager holding my hand. Our childhood crew hooted mercilessly. "Where's your cool now, John? If you cry during the proposal, I'm legally changing my last name." Never thought I'd see the day. Mark my words, I'm going all out at their wedding. Pay back for all those playground beatings. John ignored them. His gaze locked on me. When I asked what he was staring at, he smiled like the sunrise. "No take-backs. Ivy. Once you're mine, I'm never letting go." I teased. "What if some girl shows up claiming you're meant to be together? John marries Ivy. Period." He pressed my palm over his heart. "Remember how I taught you to shoot? If I ever break that promise, aim here." Our engagement party arrived with John nervously adjusting his tie every 3 minutes while I kept glancing at the doors. "You'll need to act more properly as part of the Wilson family," my father lectured, his hypocrisy making my skin crawl. The Peters had stopped being my real family long ago. After my mother died in childbirth, her replacement ensured I'd never feel at home. During those 5 nightmarish years when I'd been taken, the Wilsons searched harder than my own blood. My father actually told John, "Some fates can't be changed. Move on." Now they needed me for this merger. Their forced smiles barely hiding their resentment. Pathetic. John's arm circled my waist as he glared at my father. "Ivy's perfect as she is. If she wants to burn cities, I'll hand her the matches." The old man nearly dropped his champagne flute. During the ceremonial toast, chaos erupted. A wild-eyed woman burst through the door screaming, "You can't marry her. The first person ever to crash a Wilson event, I'll give her points for courage." I ducked behind John, playing the frightened fiancé perfectly. "Who is that?" buzzed through the crowd. Then she grabbed his hand, breathless with dramatic tears. "Husband." The absolute audacity. This was the collective thought of everyone present. John shoved her away in disgust and ordered, "Get this lunatic out of here." He'd shown remarkable restraint over the years in the past. She'd have lost her hand for such behavior. The woman struggled against 2 bodyguards with surprising ferocity, glaring venomously at me. "Ivy! You stole everything from me. You were supposed to be dead by now." My face paled. John pulled me closer while warning, "One more word and I'll have your tongue cut out." "John, we're meant to be together. I'm the heroine and you're the protagonist. She's just some disposable obstacle." The crowd exchanged horrified looks. This delusional rant ended abruptly when cold steel pressed against her forehead, my fiancé's pistol gleaming ominously. "Try ruining this for me and I'll blow your brains out," he said with chilling calm. Everyone knew John didn't make empty threats. When I touched his arm and whispered "don't," he immediately lowered the weapon. The spectators' expressions clearly read, the Wilson heirs completely whipped. Thank God someone can control that loose cannon. Stepping forward, I addressed the intruder. "While I don't appreciate your attempts to sabotage my engagement, I can't fault someone clearly needing psychiatric help. Get well soon, Luna, or rather." The soul occupying Luna's body was technically correct about being the original female lead. But that changed the moment I arrived in this world. When the system commanded, complete John's love meter to 100%. Eliminate the transmigrator. Fail and face permanent deletion. Turning desperate eyes to John, Luna pleaded, "I know things. Even about your mother's death." His grip tightened on the gun. I kept my gaze downcast as she hissed, "I'm here to save you from your tragic fate. Let me be your redemption." Know what I hate most? John pressed the barrel against her lips. Delusional women playing savior. Which asylum lost its patient? Security dragged Luna away as John scrubbed his hands raw at the sink. "She grabbed me," he muttered like a scolded child. "Didn't see it coming. Should have broken her fingers." The contrast between the ruthless mafia heir and this pouting puppy almost made me laugh. Our guests would be gossiping about this for weeks, how Ivy tamed the untamable Wilson scion. Little did they know the real game had just begun. Luna wanted to play heroine? She'd learned this story now followed my script. "John, stop acting like a child." He pinned me against the wall, whining for ages with endless ramblings that all boiled down to accusing me of being annoyed by him. I sighed. "You're overthinking this." An abrupt cough interrupted us. One of John's subordinates stood trembling, eyes glued to the floor. "Mr. Wilson, that woman is demanding to see you." John instantly straightened, fury simmering beneath his icy composure. "Half of New York wants my attention. You think I'll jump because some random bitch snaps her fingers? Can't handle basic shit without bothering me? Useless." After slamming the door on his cowering employee, he immediately softened. "Sorry our anniversary got ruined by that psycho." Didn't mean to yell. The still retreating subordinate choked back hysterical laughter. Yell? More like trigger half the office's PTSD. That night, static crackled through my consciousness before a robotic voice stuttered, 0714, can't block her interference, systems failing. I opened my eyes. It's fine. She won't take John. Luna had only cooled her heels in jail for 3 days before resuming her antics. This time she cornered me privately. Reincarnator? Transmigrator? She demanded without preamble. I smiled sweetly. MS. Smith. You're speaking nonsense. MS. Peter. That mobster Prince Charming of yours? You'll crash and burn. Always do in these stories. Her smile turned vicious. Engagement means nothing. I'm the endgame here. He's destined to become my most devoted simp. I nearly choked. John? A simp? More like a feral Doberman. My turtleneck hid fresh bite marks from last night's negotiations. You'll die alone overseas. She hissed. Rotting corpse stinking up some foreign gutter. Enjoy breathing while you can. Terrifying. I drawled, propping my chin on steepled fingers. I'll treasure every moment. Watching her storm off. I signaled my driver. Follow her. The rundown Queen's auto shop clashed violently with Luna's designer outfit. She hovered at the grease-stained entrance. Voice trembling. Ethan? The mechanic emerged like sculpted shadow, oil-smudged coveralls stretched over lethal muscle. Eyes glacial. My neural implant buzzed. I smiled. Luna got half the story right. She's indeed the heroine. But John's never been the male lead, just the doomed second lead who dies protecting her in every iteration. The Real prize stood before me, wiping engine grease off calloused hands. Now why would our precious heroine lie about that? I want to say I don't know either. The system never mentioned those details in the mission brief. It only warned that if the transmigrated woman arrived before I gained John's trust, completing my task would become increasingly difficult. That's why I sent the system away for the first 2 decades to delay her arrival while I navigated this unfamiliar world alone. Slowly advancing my mission. It took me 20 years to make John dependent on me. Miss Smith, you don't need to keep pretending to twist your ankle every time you come here. I'm busy. Ethan's patience wore thin, irritation flashing between his brows. Luna froze awkwardly, her rehearsed confession dying on her lips. The man had no time for games. Already turning to leave. I'm telling you I like you. Be with me and I'll make you rule New York. We'll trample that John underfoot. Luna blurted in desperation. I rolled down the car window, squinting through the tinted glass. Ambitious little thing, aren't we? Ethan stared at her like she'd grown a second head. I don't know any John. You showed up yesterday spouting nonsense. I should have had you committed. Don't make me repeat myself. When she grabbed his arm, he shook her off so forcefully she stumbled. Every word's true. Luna scrambled up, dusting gravel from her designer dress. I know your future. You'll become the most powerful man on the East Coast. And I'm destined to be your wife. The mechanic wiped his grease-stained hands. Unimpressed. Save the fairy tales for kindergarten. I don't hit women. But I will call security. As Ethan disappeared into the auto shop, Luna's sweet mask dissolved. She scrubbed at imaginary dirt with a tissue. Disgusting. If you weren't the protagonist, I wouldn't waste breath on some grimy mechanic. Ethan. Let's see. The novel's male lead, long-lost heir to the Carter family fortune, dragged back into high society at 20 to survive a corporate bloodbath. The story mentioned his rivalry with John's character, though the original work never clarified John's fate after being overshadowed by the protagonist. As for Luna, I smirked. The little gold digger's casting her nets wide. Strong arms circled my waist before I could finish strategizing. John nuzzled my neck, his afternoon stubble scratching pleasantly. You've been spacing out since getting home. What's wrong? I leaned into his warmth. The Carters are imploding. Heard their boards jumping ship. You're doing? Those vultures circled their own wounded for years. His hands wandered higher. I've kept my hands clean since you banned me from extracurricular activities. Why the sudden interest? Before I could answer, John spun me around. Did someone upset you? Don't be paranoid. Can't help it. His thumb traced my lower lip. But I know a cure for my condition. Oh. His smile turned wolfish. Kiss therapy. The desk became our battlefield. I bit back moans as office workers passed the frosted glass door. When it suddenly swung open, John growled out, without breaking contact, sending the assistant scrambling. 20 years hadn't dulled his skills. The awkward college boy who'd fumbled through our first kiss was long gone. Now his mouth moved with devastating precision, reducing me to breathless laughter. Still think I need practice? John murmured against my throat, hands already working my blouse buttons. I tugged his hair in warning. Behave. We have shareholders in the next room. Let them hear. His teeth grazed my earlobe. I want everyone to know who you belong to. The intercom buzzed insistently. John cursed, straightening his tie with one hand while keeping me pinned with the other. This isn't over. As he stalked out to berate his staff, I adjusted my skirt with trembling fingers. 20 years of carefully constructed dependency. Yet somehow the student kept outmaneuvering the master. When was our first kiss? It must have been the first time John made me angry. He got into a street racing bet and almost got himself killed. He made everyone keep it from me. But I found out anyway. I didn't even visit the hospital. No one dared call me heartless except the Peter family, who warned me not to go too far. I stayed holed up in my cottage, practicing piano and dancing every day. The next morning, I left with an auction invitation. John called right before the event started. I answered, holding the phone to my ear. John Wilson. Ivy, you're not home? He was probably at the cottage. I hummed in response. Where are you? Out clearing my head. John seemed to have endless explanations. But after his apology, I interrupted. It's almost time. Hanging up first. That night, I returned late. John had been waiting anxiously, not because he couldn't find me, but fearing he'd angered me again. He didn't dare break anything, knowing I hate that. He wouldn't even smoke around me. There he was in sub-zero temperatures, wearing only a thin shirt, crouching by the doorway. When he saw me, he grumbled softly, "Why go out without proper clothes? Do you want to ruin your health?" His hands still had dried bloodstains. John hastily hid them behind his back. I didn't hurt him. My coat slipped as I stood on tiptoes, our shadows merging on the ground. I kissed John first, my first kiss. And his too. He trembled worse than me. John. I'm just worried. Please stop doing dangerous things. Okay. He rasped. Face crimson. That intimidating face with its perpetually fierce eyes scared everyone. Yet I'd seen him as a child countless times, a little ball crouched by mouse holes. Sniffling, I'm not a monster. Is my face my fault? Why does everyone hate me? That's when I first saw him during my initial visit to the Wilson family, sparking my conquest plan. Later in the bathroom, John bragged to his childhood friends through the door, "How'd you know Ivy kissed me? She initiated it. My Ivy's the best. What would you lonely losers know? Got wives?" So childish. At bedtime, he prepared perfectly warm footbath water, rolling up his sleeves. The young master of the Wilson family knelt willingly to wash my feet. I teased, "What if people saw the mighty John like this?" He chuckled, scrubbing happily. "Let them. Isn't it natural to cherish your wife? What's the big deal about washing feet? If you weren't so resistant, I'd even help with bathing." My cheeks burned crimson as I avoided his gaze. Car wash or repair? The man kept his eyes on the computer screen. I slid a business card across the counter. "I'm here to see someone." "Who?" "Ethan Carter." The man finally looked up, his dark eyes sweeping over me with deliberate slowness. "You?" I blinked in surprise. "Do you know me?" He shook his head. "Never met you. But I've seen you. Ivy. Fiancée to John of the Wilson family." "That's correct. Isn't it?" At my nod, Ethan's tired features twisted into a humorless smirk. Thanks to that lunatic constantly ranting about John, I got curious and looked him up online. Quite the prominent figure. "You're not here about your fiancé, are you?" I tilted my chin. No. This concerns you. I revealed Ethan's true parentage without mentioning other details, useless information he'd likely dismiss anyway. Luna had been too hasty in her scheming. Your grandfather's waiting at the hospital. He won't close his eyes until he sees you. I nudged the card closer. This is the Carter family's right-hand man. Contact him when you decide. Though I suppose it doesn't matter now that your last living relative is gone. Dark emotions churned behind his obsidian gaze as silence stretched between us. Days later, the Carter family announced a death notice. No mention of Ethan appeared in any obituary. My system queried. You didn't have to intervene. There were multiple considerations. I murmured, recalling crucial plot details from the original story. The core conflict between John and Ethan stemmed from the Wilson family's interference during the Carter crisis. When John attempted to acquire Carter Enterprises, Ethan emerged to block him. Blaming John for his grandfather's death and corporate meddling, Ethan waged relentless warfare against the Wilson heir. I'd worked tirelessly to keep John from repeating these fatal mistakes. Even if Ethan eventually rose to power, their rivalry needn't turn lethal. The stench of alcohol hit me before I spotted Ethan slumped at the bar. His broad frame swayed slightly, fingers massaging his temples as he stared blankly at the whiskey glass. What's caught your eye? John's arm tightened around my waist, his breath hot and acidic against my ear. Ivy, you've been particularly naughty lately, daring to admire other men right in front of me. Our lingering drew curious glances from friends waiting near the VIP section. Hiding a smile, I whispered 2 words against John's neck. His cheeks flushed crimson as his hand slid lower. We'll settle this later. Tonight's gathering was supposed to be casual, but I excused myself under the pretense of fetching hangover remedies. When I returned, a voluptuous woman had attached herself to Ethan's side. Luna leaned dangerously close, her manicured hand creeping up his thigh until Ethan suddenly vomited down her designer dress. Her porcelain smile shattered as she shoved him away, storming toward the restrooms. I arrived just in time to hear her hiss into her phone, almost there. Ugh. What a disaster. Of course I don't like him, no money. No connections. If it weren't for... No. Just felt sorry for the pathetic loser. The bathroom door slammed, leaving Ethan unconscious on the stained leather booth. Luna didn't glance back once. By the way, remember to call a car to take him to the hotel. Say it's my arrangement. And crucially, make sure to mention my name. Ivy leaned against the doorframe, her laughter muffled. After all these times I've helped him, he'll definitely remember me. Trust me. I'll become that woman everyone envies. She straightened up, adjusting her blouse. Don't forget to introduce me to Michael later. There'll be generous compensation for your trouble. Her manicured nail tapped the marble countertop. He'll fall for me, hard. The kind of obsession that leaves him breathless. The metallic taste of irony lingered on my tongue. The Michael she referred to was supposedly that tragic second male lead from the novels, the perpetual moon orbiting Luna's sun, pining even after her marriage. Ethan stirred awake on the park bench, blinking at the morning light filtering through maple leaves. His tailored shirt bore grass stains. Why are you here? His voice carried the rasp of last night's whiskey. Passing by. I deadpanned. Found you drunk and alone. Thought some fresh air might help. Funny. He rubbed his stubbled jaw. I could have sworn it was Luna who helped me. My expression remained blank. Playing drunk. Huh? Ethan didn't press further, his fingers worrying the silver ring on his pinky. My grandfather's dead. Last words were about guarding the family empire. The vulnerability in his tone surprised me, raw like exposed wiring. When I stayed silent, he turned sharply. I've figured out Luna's game. What's yours? Why approach me? The morning breeze carried the scent of impending rain. John acts impulsively but means well. You're steadier. Perhaps future collaboration could benefit both. His laughter startled pigeons into flight. Wouldn't John feel emasculated knowing you scheme behind his back? I smiled despite myself. He thrives on it. Adores when I play strategist. The Wilson family drama could fuel a soap opera. Old Master Wilson, that original troublemaker, had married into wealth only to reveal a secret first marriage 5 years later. The scandal killed his wife within months, leaving 8-year-old John inheriting chaos. By 13, the boy had already torched his father's getaway car, emerging from the flames like some ash-covered Avenger. At 16, he'd crashed his father's second wedding by projecting the bride's affair onto banquet hall screens, toasting the newlyweds with poisoned charm. Surprise. Do you like my gift? The Carter family's brutal upbringing methods became legend. Marooned on uninhabited islands, thrown into golden triangles killing fields. John returned each time more hardened, the fever scars on his torso mapping his survival. Yet paradoxically, Old Master Wilson grew prouder with every rebellion, two immovable forces locked in eternal combat. Ethan studied me now with renewed interest. You realize we're all just players in his game? Games can be rewritten, I countered, watching sunlight glint off downtown skyscrapers. Somewhere in that steel forest, John was probably setting fire to another boardroom, literally or metaphorically. The wind shifted, carrying the first drops of rain. Ethan's laughter mingled with the storm's approach. Careful, darling. Those who play with fire. I turned up my collar. Tend to warm the coldest houses. Somewhere across town, a vintage lighter clicked open. After being resuscitated for 3 days and 3 nights, the relationship between the Wilson father and son had frozen over. They'd clash over the slightest disagreement. I'd always assumed that after enduring such hardships, John had grown indifferent to familial bonds. Yet on our engagement day, he whispered tenderly, I've always wanted a home. Ivy, will you build one with me? If we have children, I'll teach them that happiness matters most. I'll bear the weight of the world so they can focus on loving their mother. If not, we'll adopt cats and dogs to give them shelter. This vulnerable John desperately craved love. When I returned to the private room, the gathering was winding down. John had drunk himself into a quiet stupor, napping in the corner booth. John? I called. Without opening his eyes, he burrowed into my embrace like a drowsy child. Where did you go? Honey? His words slurred with alcohol and sleep. Got you sober up medicine. He sniffled pitifully. Thought you'd left me. Didn't answer any messages. My silenced phone overflowed with his texts. They're bullying me. Come defend your man. Feel awful. When are you coming back? Ivy. Don't you love me anymore? Honey. The world saw John as ruthless and unfeeling. I only saw the wounded boy starving for affection. The system murmured, getting attached? What happens when we leave? I had no answer. The Carter family underwent a seismic shift. Ethan Carter moved with ruthless efficiency, outpacing even the original storyline's timeline. When I asked John's opinion, he nursed his hangover in my lap, cheek pressed against my sweater. What's there to say? He grumbled nasally. All that success means nothing without someone to come home to. Luna's increasingly desperate attempts to approach Ethan became public spectacle. We witnessed security dragging her screaming from a negotiation suite. Ethan! I helped you countless times. I'm supposed to be your wife. You'll regret this. Her shrieks echoed through marble corridors while Ethan remained icily composed. Spotting me with John, Luna's eyes burned with venomous jealousy. This is your fault. Ivy! You should have died. Everything's wrong because of you. John covered my ears, scowling. Don't listen. She's unhinged. The system confirmed my suspicion. No system traces. She's reliving a script that no longer exists. Luna was chasing ghosts, unaware the story had rewritten itself around our choices. When she tried blocking our path, John's patience shattered. Should have pulled the trigger last time. He growled. motioning bodyguards to remove her. As they dragged her away, Luna's curses twisted into sobs. John's palm stayed warm against my ear, shielding me until the last echo faded. All right. The collaboration with Ethan went smoothly, and he never mentioned our conversation that night. He simply glanced at me before telling John, "Ivy is no ordinary woman. You're a lucky man." John tightened his grip on my hand, irritation coloring his tone. "With that attitude, you'll definitely get an invitation to our wedding." Feeling awkward, I quickly pulled Ethan away. Back in the car, John's composure cracked. He licked his lips, flushed crimson. "Ivy, do you know him?" Seeing no point in lying, I nodded. Anger flickered across his face before he swallowed it, finally muttering, "Just talk to him less from now on." I wrapped my arms around him, hiding my smile against his shoulder. "All right." Luna started threatening suicide to see John. He refused the first time, snarling at his subordinates. Let her die if she's so eager. But when Luna actually slit her wrists and landed in the ER at midnight, I nudged John's hand. "Go hear her out." He raked fingers through his hair, kissing my forehead. "Sleep early. I'll be back soon." Dawnlight filtered through the curtains when the bed dipped cautiously. I rolled into his warmth without opening my eyes. "What happened?" His arms encircled me as he settled. "Nothing important. Go back to sleep." The tension in his body told me otherwise. John lay silent, clinging to our quiet sanctuary like it might vanish. His phone lit up with an unknown number I instinctively recognized. John answered on speaker. Luna's tearful voice pleaded, "It's so dark here. John, come find me." Murderous rage hardened his voice. "Keep this up and I'll have your tongue removed. Test me." They'd committed Luna to psychiatric care, information I pried from his staff. Days later, Ethan approached me with haunted eyes. "Let me take her." When I asked why, he smiled bitterly. "I want the real Luna back. As the one in the position to set terms." I asked, "What's your offer?" Relief flooded his features. "Your family gets priority in all future deals." "Deal. She'll never bother you again." John collapsed without warning. Doctors called it psychological trauma. After 3 sleepless nights at his bedside, his feverish eyes met mine, overflowing with desperate longing and heartache. "John?" I cradled his burning face. John's voice gradually steadied. "Come with me to see her. Okay?" The cemetery stood chilly and deserted. Dressed in black, John walked slightly hunched ahead as though carrying invisible weights. The person he spoke of was Mrs. Wilson, matriarch of the Wilson family who'd passed years ago. Her youthful portrait smiled from the tombstone, sharing John's features. He brought me here annually yet never spoke of her. This story carried profound sorrow. "Visiting again. Don't mind me, I won't stay long." The man lowered his lashes, brushing dust off the stone. "That day you swallowed pills before my eyes. Kept repeating his name. Swore you'd haunt him as a ghost." His throat worked. "Funny how it's me you never let go." I blinked away moisture, turning aside. "Mom." John's whisper clung to the wind. "I miss you terribly." His knuckles whitened against granite. "Yet you never cared enough to visit my dreams." He sequestered himself in his room after returning home. On this death anniversary each year, the vibrant man dissolved into silence. That night I crept into darkness pierced only by a cigarette's ember glow. He recognized my footsteps. "Ivy." Smoke roughened his voice. Wordlessly I embraced him. The man who thrived on control stood motionless, arms locking around my waist like living shackles. "Marry me tomorrow," he rasped. His urgency bewildered me. "I need you home. Our seaside villa in Alaska's ready, you loved those bay windows. Custom gowns await, mermaid cuts. Cathedral trains. Enough for 4 changes daily. His laugh cracked. The ring's en route, that diamond you stared at during the auction fight. I bought it. My breath caught. He'd witnessed that humiliating spat yet noticed my fleeting admiration. John. What's wrong? Tremors ran through him. This feels dreamlike. That I'll wake to emptiness. His grip tightened. Say it's real. Ivy. Swear you'll stay. That moment the system pinged, my mission complete. Exit available. I watched him meticulously arrange rose arches. Throat constricting. Goodbyes lodged like broken glass. Wait a little longer. I whispered. The system obliged. Wedding preparations accelerated absurdly. Guests joked. Why the rush? Think your bride will vanish? John's smile didn't reach his eyes. Can't risk it. He quipped. Gaze never leaving me. Dread coiled in my gut. Almost as if. When I questioned the system about his uncanny intuition, it hesitated. Perhaps you were meant to remain. The Wilson-Peter union became legend, a cathedral drowned in gardenias. Vows exchanged beneath chandeliers. Every detail screaming devotion. Yet as I walked the petal-strewn aisle toward John's radiant smile, the system's final alert pulsed. Departure imminent. 0 hours. 59 minutes. 59 seconds remaining. The system said today was the best day to leave and told me to get ready. I was alone in the hotel lounge. It felt like the space had been deliberately cleared for me. Even the corridors were empty. I stood at the crossroads, left hand leading to the back exit. Right hand toward the wedding venue. The first step was to turn left. The system began its transfer sequence. But something felt off. Why were fragments of Ivy's memories flooding my mind? My vision filled with images of John, smiling John, angry John, weeping John. The final scene showed him clutching Ivy's funeral portrait, kneeling before a gravestone as he sobbed uncontrollably. Remember now? The system asked. You are Ivy. In your past life. Luna's transmigrated soul grew jealous. You never returned from abroad. John eventually discovered she was the killer. He approached her deliberately, avenged you using the same methods, then took his own life before your grave while holding your portrait. The Divine One took pity and granted you the second chance, a mission to reconnect with John in your original world. Epilogue. I had a childhood friend named Ivy. Gentle, quiet, but stubborn. I told her countless times I'd never like her. Yet every morning, she'd still trail after me like an obedient shadow. Too clingy. Years passed, over a decade of this. I assumed I'd never fall for someone like her. But whenever I went on dates with other girls, irritation gnawed at me. Seeing her laugh with other guys made me want to punch walls. Ivy stole my heart anyway. Our dynamic flipped. As adults, she rarely focused on me anymore. Meanwhile, I secretly cataloged her every habit. But how could someone as sharp as her not notice? That summer after graduation, during our class photo, she swapped places to stand beside me. I covertly grabbed her hand. John, she whispered, let's get together after this. But you have to confess first, only then will I say yes. I fought to keep my grin contained, playing it cool. Deal. It was the first time I'd ever smiled in a photograph. We both broke that promise. Ivy left for an exchange program abroad and never returned. When the news came, I trashed my entire house, dragged my father from his mistress' bed, and nearly killed him in our brawl. Waking in the hospital, I found a strange girl at my bedside. I'm Luna. She smiled. Remember me, John? Never heard of you. Panic flickered across her face. I wasn't lying, she meant nothing to me. She started recounting fabricated memories. That time after the track meet, you gave me bottled water. Slowly, the pieces connected. Ivy was part of the student council and had been assigned to distribute water to athletes during the sports meet. I couldn't bear to see her under the scorching sun. So I made her stay in the shade while I went with a couple friends to handle the task. There must have been hundreds competing that day. But this person before me, I didn't recognize her at all. Luna kept rambling. Once when I got my period at school, everyone stared weirdly at me buying supplies from the campus store. Only you picked up what I dropped and put it in my hand. She looked pathetically grateful. All I remembered was that day being Ivy's time of the month. She'd been hiding in the bathroom until I skipped class to sprint to the store. Whatever random good deed Luna was gushing about had long faded from memory. I coldly looked up and impatiently cut her off. "What's your point?" The girl blushed, ducking her head as she stammered. I have feelings for someone else now. Ethan. Thanks for liking me. But let's just stay friends. I stared blankly. Who the hell was Luna? Who cared about Ethan? Every inch of my body ached. John must have told the doctors to skip the anesthesia. I kicked her out. Luna looked hurt but still spouted nonsense. Don't be upset. I know rejection stings. But I'll visit more often. Absolute psycho. The next day, I discharged myself and flew to the country where Ivy died. Police had recovered a functional phone from the explosion wreckage containing her final call records. Those led me straight to Luna. To avoid alerting her, I infiltrated her social circle. Rumors swirled. But I didn't care. Only one thing mattered: how my Ivy died. Luna's lips stayed sealed tight. It took ages to make her lower her guard. Drunk and smug, she finally confessed, to confirm if Ivy lived alone. I posed as an old classmate asking about academics. Hired some thugs to sneak in with a gas canister and lighter. Boom! The whole place went up in flames. Unbridled hatred surged through me. Luna kept gloating. If I hadn't eliminated her, Ethan, John, Michael, they'd all swarm back to her when she returned. Just some disposable side character anyway. Makes better dead first love material. I choked down murderous impulses, waiting until her wedding day with Ethan. As rumors spread about me leaving the country heartbroken, I cornered Luna before the ceremony, playing the devoted lover. Last chance, come with me. The house you love is filled with roses. Just one look and I'll let you marry him. Greedy to the last. She agreed. Nothing like my Ivy. I live streamed our conversation to every wedding screen. Ethan became the laughingstock. Luna's pleas for mercy went unanswered behind locked doors. The flames burned for hours. Exhausted, I carried Ivy's portrait to her grave, whispering memories until my throat raw. Eventually I dreamed, grown Ivy smiling softly, calling my name. I clung to that vision, terrified to wake. Everything in the dream was too perfect. But I wanted more. I wanted to marry her. Right now. Immediately. This very second. I knew she'd leave. Those eyes of hers held that bittersweet look people get when farewells loom. Yet I pretended not to notice. I was terrified that if I blinked, she'd vanish. I found John in the stairwell, slumped against the wall with a cigarette dangling from his lips. Gone was his usual commanding presence. My heart sank. John. He looked up, momentarily stunned, until the cigarette burned down to his fingers. Jerking upright, he stammered, "You stayed?" I laughed until tears streamed down my face. "The ceremony's about to start. You coming?" The man's eyes turned glassy red instantly.